Hello, everybody. This is Gerudo King. I'm just popping my head out of the woodwork real quick. I saw the obvious, the little Ravago channel thing today. It was a little like like non-existence, like Power Ranger team coming together there, and that's great. Good for human beings, I guess. Whatever helps um, pass the time in the remainder of the eon. This is just a quick video here because once, in part, Seth sent me some of it, and um, in other part, he started saying like, "Let's go live. Let's talk about this." It's like I don't feel like it. Um, but then I wanted to pursue that thought for a moment. I want to be like, why don't I want to do it? Like, wouldn't I want to like stand up for the truth? Isn't that something that I've done in the past? And yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Um, there is the urge, of course, to stand there and defend it and all that. I did leave a comment or two, but at the same time, I realized the reason I guess the urge isn't there is because it already was dealt with. um, we already did do all the videos. We already did go live and talk about it. Hey, Chrysler. So, I mean, there can be videos made and whatnot all day long, but it would be like seeing a Trinitarian video come up every other week and just having that inherent need to like go respond to it. Like, you don't really need to. Um, there's no real reason. But in case any I guess like non-existence person in this sect is like wondering like, oh, they got nothing to say this time. Well, it's not that we have nothing to say this time. It's that we responded to it last time, and there was no correction on the part of this crew. So, I want to give a small list of resources for the non-existent sectarian guy who might be going, why do they think this? Why do they still think this after like all this time? Why do they still think that Jesus existed before his physical birth? And in short, I can say I have a bunch of videos here. Hey guys, hey Christ Lewis, hey Cat. Cat, I have to do the video with you. I haven't forgotten. I feel so bad because I was off yesterday, or not off yesterday. I got called into work yesterday, and I was like, oh shit, I had stuff to do. And I totally forgot that we had a stream today or that day. But we'll make that up. It's somewhere here. There it is. Clear existence of Christ's existence prior to his physical. Clear evidence of Christ's existence. Now there's a lot of old stuff here, like older stuff. Here's my thing. I'm not saying watch a whole like 7-hour video, even though this is pretty entertaining. This is probably one of my favorite videos, but um, or that you have to like rewatch Martin's like he's definitely not going into a bunch of evidence here. It's got maybe like one or two pieces of legitimate evidence per article. Sorry, per video. You know how Martin likes to talk it out and spend a week on it. But this one here, I think is a good one for any non-existence person wondering like any objections. Like, yes, this one on 1 Corinthians 8:6 is pretty solid. I remember there have been times like this was years ago. I was still sitting on my I didn't even have a couch. It's hard to forget objections you made when you don't have a couch and you're just sitting on the floor. I had a coffee table, and I was just sitting there talking into a mic, and this video was one of the ones where I started pointing out these important objections to this day have not been responded to, not one little bit. Specifically on 1 Corinthians 8:6. Why is the all in one case recognized, but all in the other case not recognized? Why is all that is out of God there, but not through Christ in the same parallel? And they say that it is. They say yes, it is. But if he didn't exist prior to his physical birth, then he has no real relation to the celestials that came before, the sovereignties that came before. This is an objection that still has not been dealt with to this day by this non-existence sect. This one, where we explicitly respond to Peter May to this day has not responded to it. Both of these. Scott Hicko made plenty of great points here concerning their claims on in the Isaiah passages, the Isaiah 43 and I think 44 as well, and the Psalm passages. He makes some great points in here that still have not been dealt with. John 1:1. John 1:1. The objections in John 1:1. The two different uses of God in John 1:1 that has been completely and unequivocally ignored by this crew, especially because the word in John 1:1, which they deem a blueprint or a concept, is called neither, but a placer in John 1:1, denoting that the word is a figure for Christ, being the image of the invisible placer, has not been dealt with at all by this crew. The two different uses of God and the fact that the word is not called an idea, but a God. Actually, on that note, in 1 Corinthians 8:6, Jesus Christ is said to be whom. An actual personal pronoun is given, through whom, not through the concept. Of course, there are the wealth of videos that me and Seth have done reading through the articles which respond to Aaron Welsh. This, if you wanted to check on my blog, so plenty of written content. I haven't finished putting this together. I'm like really slow on this, but I've put a lot of this together. I'd say the first series may be rather dated in terms of the writing. It's not as detailed as some of the non-existence sect would like it to be, but I think it gets the job done. But moreover, there's the other responses, the wealth of other responses, one of which, I believe it's part 8, gets into the very shoddy work, probably the shoddiest work that I've ever seen by Clyde Pilkington in regards to Philippians 2:5-8. Speaking of Philippians 2:5-8, well, here's Seth talking about Nelson Howe's pre-existence of Christ. I've actually never watched this one, but it exists. Also dealing with this question, the logo by what's his name? Adam over in South America. The kenosis of the Christ. This is a very important one. It has been taught by Liam. Oh, did I not put part 1 and 2 of the debunking of? Huh. Okay, well, you guys might get a little update on this video. Okay, that'll be fun. In Liam's video, in part 1, I believe, of his series, he says that in Philippians 2:6, we should be changing form of God to only begotten God. Not only did he not provide the evidence for this, but he directly ignores the concordant definition of form, which in every single other use denotes an outward appearance of an individual or thing. It never denotes the internal and that has just been entirely ignored. It has been changed to only begotten Son, which is an entirely different aspect of Christ altogether. There has been no correction on this point by him, and who knows why. There's also been no correction from these guys on the whole, like, it denies the faith of Christ. This has been thoroughly debunked by Seth and myself, um, partially in the responses to Richard's stuff, which Richard also did not respond to any of this stuff. But then also by Liam once again, which we refuted in that point too. They act as though faith if you see something that you no longer have faith, this ignores the part of Philippians 2 where it says that Christ empties himself. He is rid of all except his own spirit. There's also a good little bit here by Knock, who responded to these objections by this pretty much almost verbatim decades and decades ago, which is pretty incredible to me. Since then, there's been actually, I know I'm a little scattered here, but it's been a while since I've dealt with this. It's not super cohesive. I'm kind of doing this off the cuff. In Colossians, Aaron Welsh said that the second use of created, which is perfect passive indicative, just magically means that its only present is not considering all the entire scope of the action of creating, which would exclude Christ from the events in Genesis 1:1 to 2:3. He jumps super far past the first use of created. It is strange. I don't know why he does this, but the first use of created is in the aorist tense. That does consider the entirety of the action without regard to time. That is the entirety of the action. That would very much include anything in the past, present, and future of all of the following adjectives involved, including sovereignties, which are called originals in the literal Greek. They are called originals. So, lots of evidence to the contrary that has not been dealt with by this non-existent sect. I even found another one, and this was semi-recent. I was reading an article on wisdom by William Mealand, I believe his name is, in the Concordance, Unsearchable Riches gang. And he points out in 1 Peter 1, 10 and 11 that it is the Spirit of Christ in the prophets of old which would make evident the grace which is for Israel. This is Peter speaking concerning which salvation, obviously not Paul's salvation, but the salvation which Peter spoke of through his evangel, the prophets seek out and search out, who prophesy concerning the grace which is for you, searching into what manner of era the Spirit of Christ in them made evident when testifying beforehand to the sufferings pertaining to Christ and the glories after these. This is yet again a very clear and direct statement that the Spirit of Christ was in the prophets who were testifying beforehand to the sufferings pertaining to the Christ. This could not be clearer statements being made in favor of Christ existing before his physical birth. On that note, there are also many strawmans that are created by this sect. I guess This is commonplace with many human beings. Can't really escape it, I guess. I highly recommend that anyone who is treating the word strawman as a blind insult to look up the word strawman. In fact, I will do that right now. It is called the strawman fallacy. Thank you, AI. A strawman fallacy is a logical fallacy where someone misrepresents an opponent's argument to make it easier to attack, often by exaggerating, simplifying, or fabricating claims that the opponent never actually made. It's a tactic of diverting attention from the real issue by creating a distorted, weaker version of the opposing viewpoint. This is done, for example, when they say that Christ is like some random celestial spirit being that is like not man, but like not just like a real thing, just like a celestial that exists randomly at some point in time. It's just kind of hanging around. That is a straw man fallacy because obviously that would be easy to poke fun at and laugh at. It is also a complete misrepresentation of the argument made. Because when you don't just randomly impose only begotten Son onto form of God, you actually get the true answer to what was Christ prior to his descent, which is he was in the form of God. It was not pillaging for Christ to be considered equal with God. And nevertheless, he emptied himself. There are many times that I've seen that straw man come up. It is a shame. And the opponents have had many opportunities to correct that poor claim, but they still claim it anyway, likely because they find it easy to, as Mr. AI would point out here, to divert attention from what is actually being said. And furthermore, there has been the red herring, the obvious elephant in the room, the Trinitarian argument that by saying Jesus exists before his physical birth, that this automatically means that you are making him literally God, when nobody, I would hope nobody in this non-exist or in this body of Christ would be claiming at this point. I don't think it's possible rationally for anyone in the body of Christ to actually believe such a thing. But there are many times where we are told that we are looking at an appearance of Yahweh. For example, there's Genesis 15:1 through 3, which I mean, to this day, I mean, Gabe made that years and years ago. It still wasn't dealt with. Job 1, I remember asking Liam just directly to his face, like, hey, what does what's happening here in Job 1? Why does he why, if Yahweh is invisible, what is happening here with these people looking at him? And he didn't have an answer for that. He was, at the very least, was honest and said he didn't know. Richard's brilliant answer was that there is some other way that God made himself visible to his creation, to which I would respond, okay, where is that image and where can I worship it? What is this alternative, accurate representation of Yahweh that I can look at? Where is this alternative form of mediation? And he has been quiet on that front until July 9th, 2025. There has been the objection that Hebrews 1:2, that he creates the eons, is only dealing with the following two, the fourth and fifth eons only. To which I have replied that Hebrews, the Hebraist writer, specifically notes that wonderful phrase, spanning the eons. Every time he actually uses this word in the plural, it refers to the eons in their entirety. And the only time that it does not is when there are two uses in the same phrase. Why would the Hebraist speak so discordantly? Why would he not say makes the eons of the eons? And there's been silence on that front. I responded to that, I believe, twice with Aaron Welsh, maybe once. In the original series that I had written, he actually didn't even respond to articles like 4 through 9, maybe 4 through 10 on that, but seemed to just kind of keep his suppositions going on those on these verses. Totally ignored to this day. I don't know why. Again, it's very strange to see otherwise very studious people go just and totally look over this stuff. Um, I get on the one hand, like you might not like maybe me on a personal level, or maybe you don't like Seth, or you don't like the method of study or something. Um, but at the end of the day, or even it would be tough to look into everything that is discussed, I guess. I don't know, something like that. Um, but that doesn't make for a good refutation on any points. It makes it honestly makes the view that you guys are attaining to look very dated, because there are so many objections that have been brought up that have been blatantly ignored. And guys, the part of the reason that me and Seth and I guess Scott have like kind of just said whatever and gone and do our own things because well we dealt with it. We did deal with this already. It was already said about months ago. I think even Wes did his own thing on it. Like there's been so many objections that have not been dealt with. If you guys want to be taken seriously on this front, you should probably respond to these objections instead of just ignoring them and acting as though the Greek of the matter has absolutely no weight whatsoever. Martin pointed out, even in those videos that I pointed out in the playlist I have, Martin pointed out there hasn't been one singular verse which would say, yes, Jesus has only ever been this one form. Um, A. Enoch has his wonderful study on, he calls it the pre-existence of Christ, and everyone's gotten mad that it's called that, but it was really just a way of identifying the topic at hand and correcting the misconceptions about it, namely that the idea that Jesus is God, and instead using this point to clarify the distinction between the two. But he pointed out in those studies that um, Jesus changes forms even during his physical lifespan on earth 33 years many times on the mount, definitely upon his resurrection and so on. um, so this isn't some far-fetched or ill-conceived idea, and especially if our apostle in our present administration would tell us that this would be the case. Um, I just don't see why we would be ignoring it or treating it as lesser than it would be. Anyways, if anyone there would like to deal with the objections instead of avoiding them and just like talking around them, that's fine, I guess. You're in Christ, you know, do you. But at some point, it becomes apparent that the reason God brings us in to this relationship with him is to learn who he is. And the way he does that is through his son. If his son is not present, then it would not be possible to learn who he is. So make of that what you will. If anyone has any response to these objections made in the various videos over these years, the various articles written over these years, we're here. We'll deal with them. But I mean, doing what Liam did and just repeating yourself over again as if they haven't been dealt with already won't magically make people change your mind. I mean, unless you, I guess, have a hyper fear of the Trinity or something, but or if you want to make false equivalencies like that. But whatever, we'll deal with that when we get there. Till then, here's praying that everyone is given a spirit of wisdom to actually attain to these truths concerning the Christ, and especially be able to appreciate the beautiful secrets that God has brought us into at this present economy. And that's all I got. Grace and peace.